Tell you what, guys, it's a frosty morning. Take a look at all the frost on the grass, up in the trees, everything. So we're gonna let this sit for about an hour. See what kind of extraction we got here. All right, guys, here we go. I'm gonna put the rice in. Got my 2 pounds of rice here. It's all cracked up since the water started boiling. So when you add your rice, I got a false bottom in here, so I don't have to stir as often. But if you don't have a false bottom, you're going to make sure you keep on stirring that rice. Let it boil for about 10 minutes to gelatinize the rice. Gets all the starches out of it. Okay guys, so in addition to being brew day, it's also hunting day. Today is opening day of gun deer season, so I got my rifle out here, my Ruger Ranch rifle. Let's take a look down there in the woods. A lot of times you'll see a deer come up in the woods up here, and they'll walk along the fence line. Or you'll see one in that pasture field out there. Sometimes down by the well house. See that well house down there? See him walking around out there. So if we get lucky, might get a deer today too. Okay, so my rice has been boiled for about 10 minutes, and now what I'm doing is I'm adding water to cool down my mash water. I've got my grains all milled up. I start out with 3 gallons of water to boil my rice, and I'm going to add about 2.5 gallons to that. But you can also start out with a full mash water and use your wort chiller to cool that off. So here we go. We're gonna add till I got about 5.5 gallons of water. And I'm gonna take a temperature reading. I'm gonna bring this up to about 155, and then I'm gonna add my grains. And I want to do is I'm gonna mash this about at 149, 150. I'm gonna try to keep it about there to extract most of that. We're gonna try to convert most of those sugars to fermentable sugars, so we have a nice dry beer. So we're going to mash at a lower temperature. The higher temperatures will give you more unfermentable sugars, and then you'll end up with a sweeter beer. Alright guys, so I added my grains. I had 5.5 gallons of water. We got the cooked rice in here and all the grains. So we're going to let this sit for about an hour and let those enzymes work. It's at about, I got my mash temperature at right about 150. So we're going to let that work for about an hour, convert all those starches into sugars, and then we'll come back and drain that off, sparge it, and boil it up. Alright, it's been an hour. I put a blanket over the mash. It's pretty cold out today, so it can hold the temperature. Alright, I gathered up a little bit of that wort and I let it cool for a minute. So we're going to test the gravity. See what kind of extraction we got here. See how much sugars we got. It is amazing. 158, 1058. So we got 1058 for sugars. My final, or my starting gravity, I want to start with about 1045. So what we're going to do, we're going to sparge with about 2 gallons of water here. We end up with about 4 gallons, maybe a little more than 4 gallons of wort from our mash. So I got my sparge water ready. Do a little sparging here. Okay guys, so I've got my sparge done, and what we're going to do is we're going to take another gravity reading. Stir this a little bit. This is good. This is pre-boil. Take a little bit of this wort. I'm going to take a gravity reading. That should cool off pretty quick. It's cold out here, so temperature shouldn't affect it too much. We are at about 144. So I was really shooting for about 140, and then I figured after the boil I'd end up about 145. So what I'm probably going to do is once I get this in the boil kettle, I'm going to add some water, bring it down to about 140, and we'll start our boil and put our hops in. Right now, the next thing I got to do is clean out my kettle. Still got all my grains in there. Clean all those grains out, and we'll get to boiling. Chicken feed. They love this stuff. Okay guys, what I'm doing is I'm adding some water to my pre-boil. What I'm shooting for is 1040. I want my post-boil gravity to be about 1045. So that'll be our starting gravity with our beer. I'll test that. Right. The wort just started to boil, so we're getting ready to add the hops. So these are my hops. 0.2 ounces of magnum, 0.3 Saaz, 0.3 cascade. I've got them all right here. It's about, it's not even an ounce, it's 0.8 ounces. So we're going to put our hop spider in, a little screen, and I like to use that so the hops don't drain into your fermenter. Put that in there. Whew. She's boiling good. And give it a little stir. And I'm going to set a timer. So I'm going to go 30 minutes on these hops. Alright, so I got the boil is done. And I've got my wort chiller in there. I put it in there maybe 5 minutes before I ended the boil. Get it sanitized good. And over here we got our fermenter all set up with some star sand. So that's been soaking for a while. So what I'm going to do now is turn on the wort chiller water, which I've got a garden hose down here connected up under the hose. So turn that on, start chilling this wort down. Alright guys, we are all cooled down. So, getting ready to drain into my fermenter. I'm going to drain into that hop screen to catch any little particles of rice or hops or anything. and that'll aerate it good too. Okay, I captured a little bit of that wort when I was draining it out into my fermenter. So I'm going to check the gravity. What I'm shooting for is a 1045. See what we got here. It is right about 1044, 1045. So worked out good. Got a good gravity rating. Alright, I sanitized everything good. I'm getting ready to add my yeast. 3470 lager yeast. And it agitated pretty good, just pouring it with that little stub of silicone hose. That worked out real good. And hop sputter on there. Gonna shake it a little bit. Seal the lid down good. It's tight. Yeah. Got my trap all set up with some star sand in it. So that should be it. We're ready to go. I'll let that ferment for about a week. See how it's doing. This ought to be a real good beer.